Have you ever struggled to level out the singers and the band for your live stream at church? Well, you're not alone. Today's question comes from Leonard Hayes, and he posted this: how do I level out singers and music in live stream for a church?
Let's go.
So that's a pretty generic question, and so it's hard to really give a very specific answer, but what I'm gonna do in this video is just really cover some basic mixing best practices and tips for, really getting a good mix for your church live stream, but also for in the room. One of the best resources that I've ever found is a resource called Recording Revolution. And in that particular resource, a guy named Graham Cochran, and now he's even bringing on some other teachers, but he covers so many of mixing fundamentals is in regards to understanding EQ, understanding compression, how to use reverb. And now he covers it, now here's the thing, he covers it from a studio standpoint, but all of the principles really do, for the most part, carry over in a live context as well. And as more and more churches are live streaming their services and are setting up broadcast studios, that studio element that Graham Cochran focuses on in the Recording Revolution is becoming more and more something that could be incredibly useful for churches in their context as they're setting up those live stream and broadcast studios. Another resource is Joe Gilder over at homestudiocorner.com, and basically sort of a lot of the same kinds of resources and understanding the basics of how to mix and understanding effects and using what you have to achieve something great. So definitely recommend checking out Joe Gilder over at Home Studio Corner to help you improve your mixing capabilities. My second tip is this: find a reference track. Now, there are lots of churches that are already achieving an amazing sound. And so the idea here is to find a song, find an actual track from, maybe it's a Bethel, maybe it's an Elevation, maybe it's a church that is, in your local area. And you just really admire their live stream mix, you admire their front of house mix at their church, maybe you've heard it before. Find a particular recording of a song that you could listen to critically and try to emulate. Now, I encourage you to listen to this mix on all kinds of systems, whether it be, in your car, on, your phone, your mobile device, on your laptop, on your TV. Listen to it on your PA system so you can really hear how, how's the bass hitting, how are the drums hitting, where are the vocals sitting in the mix. Listen to this, what you would call professional mix on all these different systems, and see where each instrument is fitting in the mix. And again, listen critically. Don't just listen for enjoyment, but listen to, can you hear the kick drum when the entire band is going? Can you hear the acoustic guitar when the entire band is going? When do the harmony vocals poke out in the mix? Is there a shaker track that is happening at various points? Where's the hi-hat sitting in the mix? Another thing with this is I do recommend choosing a live recording, because there is a little bit of a difference between a studio recording and a live recording. When you get a live recording, you sort of get this feel of the room, because it was recorded with lots of bleed coming into the drum microphones. It was recorded with lots of bleed coming into the vocal microphones. And so it's just a lot different feel. Whereas with the studio, everything's isolated. The vocals are a lot of times recorded in a completely dry vocal booth. Drums are recorded sort of on their own, and there's little to zero bleed coming into microphones. And so the recording overall is just a lot different. So definitely recommend choosing a good live recording for this. One of my favorites, honestly, is that new, quasi-new song from Brandon Lake called I Need a Ghost. I love that mix. I love the drum sounds. I love how the vocals sit and the guitars and, all the synths and backtracks, all that stuff. Find something that is a mix that you think would really fit your church well, and a mix that you would want to emulate with your church. Listen to it on all kinds of systems and listen critically for how the different instruments are fitting in the mix. Again, live song is going to be better for this. Another tip on leveling out singers and band and live stream and live front of house mixing is going to be doing virtual sound check. Actually, the ability to mix the service before the service. And so this has been a game changer for my church, where we rehearse on Thursdays, we record it, we multi-track record it, and then I actually go back, and then Thursday night, I'll dial in the drums. Everyone leaves and I'll dial in the drums. I'll look at the EQs and the compression and the effects, and I'll go tweak happy. I'll get everything just dialed in as best as I possibly can. I'll listen in headphones, I'll export the mix, listen on my phone, and really try to get it dialed in to not only sound good in the room, but to sound killer on a mobile device as well. If you don't already have the ability to do a virtual sound check, I encourage you to, do a quick Google search and see if you can find anything online to help you get started with that. And I encourage you to reach out to somebody in your community. Reach out to somebody at a neighboring church in your local area and say, hey, I'm trying to work on my live stream, trying to work on the broadcast mix, trying to work on front of house mix, heard about this thing called virtual sound check. Can you help me get that set up? It's been an amazing resource for us. Highly, highly, highly encourage it. Can't recommend it enough, virtual sound check. Another tip for leveling out your singers in your band for your live stream and front of house mix is to mix quiet. Now, I started doing this in the studio first, and then I started to do it live as well. So now you can't really do this if you're mixing completely live and you've got the band in the room. And so let me tell you what I mean by this. By mixing quiet, it's this idea of pulling down the music as quiet as you can get it. And then whatever you hear, so right before the music completely goes away, whatever you hear, that's what's on top. And so what I do is I try to get the mix as good as I can, and then I turn it down. And whatever's poking out whenever it's quiet is what's, probably sort of imbalance. It's probably too loud, and mixing quiet exposes what is too loud. And so what I'll do is, again, I'll turn it down. I'll hear that, the hi-hat's poking out more than I thought it was. Because when you're hearing this loud mix and it's rocking in the room, you're hearing the low frequencies, it just sounds awesome, and you're kind of caught up in the moment of live music, right? But then you turn that down, and sort of that live music skewed perspective, call it that, goes away, and you can really just sort of objectively evaluate how the mix is. And so then you turn it back up after having listened to it quiet, and you're like, oh yeah, I do hear that. The hi-hat is poking out too much, or the snare drum is getting, it's way too loud in the mix, so I need to pull that back, or whatever it is. Just a caution with this though, is that frequencies also hit differently at different volumes. This is something I learned, a couple years ago. I was doing an audio class. The louder you push music, different frequencies are elevated in our perception of their volume, and like lower frequencies especially. Like if you turn it down, you're not going to feel the bass anymore, but then you turn it back up and then all of a sudden there's the bass. So you have to be careful with this, but it is helpful for sure in just getting things leveled out. And again, just to reiterate, I don't do that if the band is live in the room. I only do that for virtual sound check. Another thing that is super helpful in getting things leveled out for live stream in front of house is compression. Compression is, I love it so much. I probably overuse it, admittedly, but it's super helpful in getting things leveled out, because You know, with singers, like just the dynamic range is typically all over the place, especially with like octave jumps in songs where you're singing down the octave and then it gets popped up the octave, and then you're breathy on one song and then your chest, full on chest in another song, or head voice on one part of a song and then you're, low breath in a different part of a song. Anyway, it's just all over the place. So being able to level that out. Oh, and then what makes it even more crazy is when you have multiple singers who again are all over the place in their range. So it's just super helpful to compress it. And in that way, as singers are going to different parts of their voice, it's not just this crazy volume difference and you're having to just ride faders like crazy. So honestly, I compress like crazy to just level all of that out. And it's really the same thing with drums and with bass and with guitars. You know, I personally like my low end to be nice and consistent. I like the kick drum and the bass to pretty much, for the most part, anytime that kick drum hits, I don't like for it to be, kind of all over the place. I like for it to be the kick drum each time the kick hits, but personal preference. Okay, there's so much more that I could really say about this particular subject, but I want to close with this, and I could really only speak from my experience, and my experience has been this, that the better the mix is in the room, the better it will be online. A bad mix in the room will sound fine in the room, but a bad mix in the room online through a phone or TV or laptop or whatever, or especially a car, is gonna be terrible. So getting the mix better in the room for us has translated to a better broadcast, live stream, online mix. And so that's why I've been spending so much time doing virtual sound check, like trying to get it as dialed in as possible, exporting that mix, listening to it on all different devices, being like, okay, that's what it sounds like on the phone. This is what it sounds like on these headphones. This is what it sounded like on the TV. This is what it sounded like in the car. I didn't notice these different things poking out, in the room, because in the room it was just rocking and awesome. But on these other devices, I noticed this. Let me go tweak that in the room. The room is ultimately better for it, and online gets the return on that investment as well. So the better it is in the room, the better it is online. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. It would mean so much to me if you would slap that like button, just slap that like button. And hey, if you got value, if you're digging this stuff, then click subscribe, comment below, let me know if there's a question you have, just let me know. And remember, you have a gift, share it today. Did you hit the like button yet? Go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it. Hit the like button. Hit the like button.